also be talking about the fact that he was very categorical in inviting the opposition to give their input. He also said that as far as the election process is concerned, it's time that we all work together to improve it, so that Pakistan can have free and fair elections, considering that all the elections to date have been criticized for being not independent enough, for being controversial. So therefore, whoever comes in comes with that cloud. And the Prime Minister, for the first time, spoke categorically about it. He spoke about the fact that the opposition needs to give their input as far as this electoral reform is concerned. We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the fact that, pursuant to what happened not a week, 10 days ago in the Assembly, as far as between the opposition and the government, after this kind of change in tone as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, are we going to be seeing a change in the style of politics, not only as far as the government is concerned, but also with regard to the relationship between the opposition and the government? There have been numerous issues. Working together has been an issue with regard to not only the opposition but also the government, and who has to take the first steps. Is this that first step in that sense? We'll be talking about all of that today. Let's hear what the Prime Minister had to say as far as the electoral reform is concerned.
जुडिशल कमीशन बैठी थी 2015 के अंदर, और उस जुडिशल कमीशन की फाइंडिंग्स थी 2013 के इलेक्शन के ऊपर, जो भी उन्होंने कहा कि बेज़ाब्तियां हैं, वो सारी होती थी जब पोलिंग खत्म होती थी और उसके बाद जब रिजल्ट अनाउंस होता था। तो हमने इसके ऊपर जो सब अपनी डिस्कशन करके एक नतीजे पे आए कि इसका सिर्फ एक रास्ता है, ईवीएम मशीन। वो क्यों है? क्योंकि ईवीएम मशीन जैसे इलेक्शन खत्म होता है बटन दबता है, रिजल्ट आ जाता है। तो वो जो सारा पीरियड है उसके बाद जिधर डबल स्टैंप्स होते हैं, जिधर वो थैलियां खुली होती हैं, वो जो सारी चीजें, वो सारी चीजें खत्म हो जाती हैं अगर आप इलेक्शन खत्म होते साथ ही रिजल्ट आए और फिर पेपर ट्रेल हो कि जो भी क्वेश्चन करना चाहे तो उसके पास मौका हो, वो जाके क्वेश्चन कर सके। तो मैं अगर इनके पास, ऑपोजिशन के पास कोई और तजवीज है तो हम तैयार हैं सुनने के लिए। लेकिन ये तो कोई हर इलेक्शन, अगर आज जब आप कुछ इसमें कोई रिफॉर्म नहीं करेंगे, ये तो फिर हर इलेक्शन के अंदर यही सिलसिला होगा, जिस तरह बाय इलेक्शन, जिस तरह सेनेट के अंदर। तो ये एक मेरी रिक्वेस्ट थी।
Right. I have with me today Siddiqul Farooq, who's leader PMLN. Thank you for being with us today. Saeed Minhas, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us today. We are also joined by Uzma Kardar, who's an MNA with PTI. Thank you for being with us. And also Makhtoom Saeed Murtaza Mahmood, who's an MNA with PPP. Thank you for being with us. Ji, Siddiqul Farooq Saab, how do you see the comments that the Prime Minister made? How do you see the fact that he is, it's an overture as far as the government is concerned? He's asking you, the opposition, to play your role.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you. This was just a statement,
okay,
not a formal invitation. And he referred to the Judicial Commission, which was proposed by him. And Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, the then Prime Minister, through that Judicial Commission, held an inquiry, and it came up with a report that elections were generally held free and fair.
Okay.
As far as bezabtiyan he referred to was minor.
But isn't it true that your party still calls him selected?
Of course.
So you think the elections were fair, but you still call him selected?
As far as the existing election system is concerned, if it is implemented in letter and spirit, it is, in my opinion, perfect system.
Okay.
Because you poll a vote after showing your ID card. There are election representatives of every contestant there. The ballot box is sealed before them, showing them empty, and then it is open in front of them and ballot papers are counted. And then Form 45 is filled in their presence.
What happened in Sialkot?
Yes. What happened in Sialkot was totally violation of those rules.
But the paper trail that the Prime Minister is talking about, the fact that it will be like the electronic system of voting that he's talking about, will that not deal with sufficiently with some of the issues that...
Electronic system or electronic machines can be hacked and manipulated more easily. Now, coming to the invitation which was extended through a statement.
Right.
Let him invite all the leaders of parliamentary parties, including especially leaders of the opposition in the National Assembly and in the Senate, and then hold a formal meeting with them. That discussion can lead to a consensus formula if need be.
Okay.
Otherwise, only implementation in letter and spirit is the solution of these problems.
Right. Okay. Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Minhas Sahab. Minhas Sahab, Sadiqul Farooq Sahab saying that he is going to wait for a formal invitation, and then perhaps they will be able to sit down. And how do you think, as a journalist, how do you look at this development? I would say, in the sense that we've been having lots of arguments, between the opposition, between the government and the opposition. Not to mention the fighting that's been happening. For the Prime Minister to extend himself in this way. Wouldn't you say it's a good sign?
Yeah, it's very normal for a Prime Minister whose own basket is full of rotten eggs right now, what we can say honestly. Because he came up with the promises of having all the experts in his party, and he has done his homework, and now we are finding that the homework is not there. And this sudden urge of getting the electoral reforms on the agenda and inviting the opposition to extend the support is coming after the fact that they have lost the by-elections, is coming after the fact what happened in the Senate election with Yusuf Raza Gilani Sahab and all that thing. So all these things have happened, and it's an afterthought that after finding all the proposals which they have been giving through the container days and all those days, none of them have been materialized yet. So if we look at the total package, even the Prime Minister's own party is not clear what to do about that. They have not put forward. EVM is one formula. As Sadiq Sahab rightly said, even an American democracy, which is far more superior technologically than us, they are crying foul on the election results because they are saying that Russians are doing that. And so if at that level they cannot stop that hacking and things like that, how can we do that? And Prime Minister is also forgetting in 2018, after the Judicial Commission's report, there was a study conducted under the Election Commission, and that study proved that it is beyond our control if we go to electronic mode of voting. So they doubted the integrity of the elections if we go to the electronic machines. Now the other side is...
What's your take on the fact that till date, are you satisfied that Pakistan has held, by and large, let's talk about history, free and fair elections? I mean,
none of the elections. Look at 70s. I mean, starting from the 70s when the one person, one vote franchise started with Bhutto, even that was contested. You can see that we lost the country, half the country.
Right.
Then afterwards, I don't see any of the, I mean, yes, all the dictators can claim that we conducted all those free and fair elections, but then they were dictators. So they have not run under the parliamentary system.
So is it so wrong or far-fetched or unbelievable when the Prime Minister says that on the floor of the House, that let's,
No, it's a good effort, but at the same time, I would see that the intent should be there, because 3 years have passed, and the Prime Minister have extended sometime others also some invitations to the opposition. But the problem again is that the sincerity on both sides is not there. Second thing which is missing is that when it comes to the national security matters, they both converge. not only they, but all the political parties come on the same table and have the tea and talk about the national security. Other than national security, unfortunately, on any of the issues which are confronting this country, none of them have shown any seriousness.
Right. Okay, let me come back to you, Minhas Sahab. I'm going to go to Uzma Kardan. Ji, Uzma, I don't know if you've been following our discussion so far, but there are 2-3 points as far as the sincerity of the Prime Minister, according to Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, even Minhas Sahab, the fact that it should perhaps have come earlier than it did, all of those, barring all of that, how do you think that there something will come out of this? Do you think that you will get the kind of response that perhaps the Prime Minister is envisaging?
Thank you so much, Mahrukh, for inviting me to your program. Actually, I don't know why these people are so apprehensive and why they do not come on the same page as the government and the Prime Minister, because this is in the best interest of all the parties. Now, the Prime Minister has been extending this offer to the opposition since the time we have come. It's been 3 years. It is the need of the hour. It is very important that we go towards electoral reforms. Everybody knows that after 1970 there was not even one election in which everybody was satisfied. After every election, all the parties, they start complaining that there has been rigging and nobody is happy with the results. So for so many years, I don't know why we could not evolve a system which could be, the best way to take forward the mandate of the people. Now, we have so many examples around us. Take a look at India. Now, the Prime Minister has quoted the examples of Bangladesh, of Sri Lanka, of India. Recently, there was election in 5 states. There was no hue and cry after that election. It was electronic voting, and the results came, they were staggered. They didn't come immediately. Some came after a few weeks. But everybody accepted those results because, you see, if you come up with a foolproof method which is acceptable to all. Now, let me just repeat here, the Prime Minister is not bulldozing anything on the opposition. He is just inviting them to sit together and to discuss and evolve a system. He said, if you don't like our suggestions, you come up with your suggestions. We will listen to your suggestions. But we must go into these reforms before the next election. That is the only way. Otherwise, again, the stigma of rigging and manipulated elections, it will haunt us forever. How many years more do we need to come to terms with a proper system? Now, democracy is a beautiful system, and our country, I think we are lucky that the people of this country are part
a lot of the opposition is saying that this has come too late. Usma, can you hear me?
Therefore, Mahrukh, I feel that the opposition has no reason to be apprehensive. We are open to their suggestions. The Prime Minister is offering them time and again. So I don't know why there is this suspicion.
Right, fair enough. Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Mr. Mahmood ji. Mr. Mahmood, what does the PPP feel? What does the PPP think about the statement that's come out? The fact that, the Prime Minister, of course, has extended this offer on the floor of the House. What do you expect? Do you think that something will come out of this?
Thank you, Mahrukh, for having me. Historically, People's Party has, sacrificed so much for democracy. So without free and fair elections, I don't think there can be true democracy. People's Party thinks, like Prime Minister said, that regarding electoral reforms, I think, we have to empower the Election Commission on this as well. There is trust deficit, and it's natural with the trust deficit. I think the Election Commission should play a role. The opposition and the government should sit with the Election Commission. They should have a debate on this, and they should then come out with a conclusion on this. Obviously, our system needs to evolve. It's inefficient system. It takes a very long time, and after every election, you see people. There are people saying there's rigging happened. So I think we all need to sit down and we need to reform this our system, and we have to empower the election commission on this.
But principally speaking, the PVP is not against I-voting, which the Prime Minister is talking about. He's talking about a paper trail. He's talking about a system that could perhaps, be more credible.
Well, we have to set a criteria, and obviously, as I said, there's trust deficit, and it's natural. I think the election commission is empowered, and we all sit together with the election commission, and every party can give their own opinions, and we can come to a conclusion with that. And we have to obviously improve our system. There's no doubt on that. But I personally feel that the trust deficit which is there, only way the opposition and the government sitting together is like in presence of election commission, and we have to empower the election commission. We can't ignore the election commission of Pakistan.
Right. I will come back to you. Ji, Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, I think that Murtaza Mahmood raises a very important question. He says that of course the election commission is a huge stakeholder in this, and that perhaps of course that we need to take them on board when any discussion or any relevant decision comes out of this eventually. Yes. Does the PMLN principally agree?
We agree that if Prime Minister Imran Khan and his government and party they are sincere in holding free and fair elections, totally against their actions, referring to Daska, etc., then they should convene a formal meeting, including opposition leaders and election commission, which I forgot, because he is the main the election commission is the main stakeholder, and election commission has declared 13 articles of the proposed formula as in clash with the constitution. So first of all, he should convene a meeting, discuss it threadbare, and then come up with a consensus formula. But we, PMLN, not only suspect, we do not believe his intention, that he is fair.
What do you think is behind his invitation?
Stealing elections now through a chip or anything else, or hacking these machines.
So you think that the PMLN would probably not agree with the I-voting? They don't agree with the internet voting, which is a solution according to the Prime Minister for perhaps even the overseas Pakistanis?
More than 6 European countries introduced, and then they abandoned this system because they found it faulty. Therefore, if the European Union, 6 most advanced countries are against this system, how in Pakistan, where the literacy rate is almost 40%, and training is also required, and more than 100 billion rupees are also involved in purchasing these machines. We, the poor nation, with this literacy rate and not a good intention.
You think we should stick to the old system? There's nothing wrong with
and ensure that elections are held free and fair.
Which hasn't happened, by the way. Even Minhaj Saab said so. Yes. Till now we have not seen that kind of free and fair election.
But I think this time it has become impossible to push out polling agents from polling stations and polling booths. And
Farooq Sahab, when your leadership stands on their containers, and even now they refer to the Prime Minister, the elected Prime Minister of this country, as selected.
We don't have the reputation of containers.
There is, I'm sorry, you also stand on, whatever, I mean a podium or whatever. You saw what Mariam Nawaz says, you saw what, that's what I mean. The heated debate, the heated calls of selected to an elected Prime Minister of this country. He has, now...
We do not believe that he is an elected Prime Minister. This is our stance. And we have proofs.
Because of which now...
When 95% of Form 45 is not signed by polling agents, then how can we declare and say that the elections held in 2018 were free and fair.
Which brings us back to the same point. Ji, Said Minhas Sahab.
Yeah, there are so many things now. One side is the constitutional amendments.
Right.
If we look at the package, the other side is the efficiency and the independent election commission of Pakistan and its responsibilities vis-a-vis toward the constitution of Pakistan. So when they are objecting to what formula Khan Sahab has given or Khan Sahab's party has given, they have every right to say that genuinely there are at least 4 to 5 constitutional amendments which needs at least 2/3 majority. That means all the political parties have to be
Which
on
would
board.
again need their input, of course.
Exactly.
Right.
Without them,
They can't
Khan
happen.
Sahab cannot get this through.
Right.
And this is, whether we like it or not, I mean, look at your population. Your 60% of the population is considered as youth. And that is your voting rights.
Right.
Now, the third dimension to that is Nadra, which is totally redundant, became redundant because what they did in 2018 election, they verified the election, the voters list, and they came up with 36 million out of 81 million they could verify.
Right.
So more than half of them, the existing votes, 81 million plus, are not verifiable by Nadra. If they are not, and then on the expatriates or overseas Pakistanis, I see conflicting figures from overseas Pakistanis. They are claiming 9 million Pakistanis are overseas Pakistanis.
Okay.
Nadra is claiming they are 7.5 million. So I think Nadra has the data to back their claim, but overseas Pakistanis might have. So there are so many things and so many missing pieces, and then civil society, of course, is a major component of this entire thing,
Right.
where they are also missing in this. And I totally agree that they have to sit and write seriously. And this, in any democracy, is the responsibility of the sitting government, that they should come up with the first draft. And that draft has to be given to the political parties. So political parties will come up with their own amendments or suggestions, and then they should hold a consensus. That's how all the constitutional processes have been done, with consensus. You cannot bulldoze anything, and I think this might be a good way for the opposition also to chip in with their, I mean, maybe, let's say if we don't take the electronic voting, for all
You
the
think
flaws
the government
mentioned.
also perhaps has seen the fact that you can't bulldoze,
Exactly.
because we saw what happened with regard to the Yusuf Raza Gilani election, and with
I mean, it's a bad
Supreme Court
taste for the
involvement.
government, sitting government, that they are losing elections as well as they are losing in the parliament. I mean, election of Raza Gilani, Yusuf Raza Gilani, is quite a big surprise and a big slap on their face. Despite, and this is the flaw within the system.
which shows us that the system needs to be amended.
And the system needs to be amended, but let's say if they have given 10 or 13 proposals, 3 or 4 or 5 are acceptable, if not
One
all of
sentence.
them.
System needs to be observed and implemented, the existing system, not flouted.
Right, so there is
But
a
not
disagreement
flouted.
here.
But there is
According
the
to
problem
Siddiqui
is that
Farooq Sahab,
the
he thinks
system
it
has
doesn't
never
need to
been
be amended.
implemented.
Yes.
That is the problem. System has never
But
been
it has to be
implemented.
seen whether the system can be implemented in its entirety or not.
So that's another question.
Can be
That's
That's
what-
the capacity of Election Commission of Pakistan. They failed
Right.
again and again to implement that
Can they
system.
implement it, which brings us again to the point that we need to bring the election commission.
Powers who flout the elections are more powerful than election commission.
And that's a big
why.
elephant in the room.
Yes.
Right. I think that Siddiqui Farooq Sahab and the PMLN generally feels more, that topic can be left to a side. I think Siddiqui Farooq Sahab, before we could consider the election reforms, and then we can talk
But
about
if there is a consensus is evolved
right.
between opposition, election commission and sitting government,
Right.
that can be implemented, and then
Right. You're
in
saying,
that
please,
case, yes.
Uzma, according to Siddiqui Farooq Sahab, and if you've been listening, he says that there has to be some sort of, whether the existing system can be implemented, and the fact that the election commission has till date failed to implement it, if it's still implementable, or it really needs to be changed. But then all of those questions are again what the Prime Minister is talking about when he says that perhaps we need to move towards amendment.
Mahrukh, I think
Sorry, I think there's a problem with audio. Ji, Mr. Mahmood, do you think that, what's your take on the fact that this existing system till now, we've had, all the elections have been unfortunately doubtful. I mean, doubt has been cast on all the elections till date. Whether the system itself is not implementable or it needs to be amended, the point is that the stakeholders, like you said, need to sit together and work towards it before the next election. Or we'll have the same cries of selected, whoever is at the helm of affairs.
Mahrukh, there's no doubt that the system is not efficient. Our system is not perfect. I think the most important thing is, like PTI has its own opinion regarding the EVM machines. We have our own opinion. PMLN has their own opinion. It's important we all sit together, other parties as well. We all sit together. We should have a consensus, and we should evolve the system which is acceptable to all the parties.
But what about overseas Pakistanis? Now, we've seen that there is an agreement between political parties on the issue of overseas Pakistanis also. Because earlier we were seeing that PTI was saying one thing, the PMLN, the PPP, something else altogether.
Mahrukh, personally, I feel, it's too soon, and it's like, opposition parties were overwhelmed by this, because it just suddenly came up. Already we have so many issues regarding our system, this election, which happens in Pakistan every 5 years, or before even. So it's too soon. We were overwhelmed by it. I don't know how to, what People's Party's policy is regarding this, but obviously we can discuss this. Overseas Pakistanis have a big stake in the country. They spend so much, money into the country, and I think we all have to sit down, and PTI has to act maturely. They have to act like a government. They have to be more welcoming, and obviously their attitude has to change. And it's important. Pakistan is going through a very crucial time right now. Afghanistan, US leading Afghanistan, and the attitude of the government has to change. It should be more welcoming, and we all should sit together. And for international policy, which will be facing after America leaves, and even internal issues, we have to sit down together. And we have to sort them out. And
Murtaza, do you think that that there will be a change as a young parliamentarian? Do you think that there will be a change in the way that things are conducted in the National Assembly? Maybe even during the next session, because we saw what happened unfortunately during this time. And there seems to be, as I understand, there's a clear division between the opposition and the government. There is, the kind of attitude generally. There's no relationship of sorts. A working relationship needs to be there for any kind of reform. And certainly, this government came in.
Mahrukh, I was personally, very disappointed. Whatever happened in the National Assembly. I've been in politics for 12 years, and I've sacrificed a lot, and I worked hard to get elected to represent my people, not like seeing people throwing books like senior leaders. So it was very disappointing for me, and obviously this shouldn't happen in the National Assembly. We have to act more mature, and we have to sit down together on for Pakistan. It's very important. But I hope the PTI government realizes this and they change their attitude. Their attitude should be more welcoming, and we have to, internal issues, external issues, we have to sit down and we have to talk about this.
Right, let's hope.
Mahrukh, if you could allow me,
Uzma, please,
because my connection was a bit weak earlier on.
Ji.
Please
continue.
I think both your guests, I have respect for them. And I think they are in a very positive frame of mind in your program, and we really appreciate that, because they're all talking about empowering the Election Commission. You see, now there are no two ways about it. All parties, we need to agree on certain matters, because constitutional amendments can only come in through consensus. And for that, all parties have to sit together on the table, across the table, give their proposals, and in case what the proposals which are put forth by the government if they want to change them, or they can offer some proposal from their end, it will be welcomed by the Prime Minister and our government, because we want to work towards the good of the system. We want to evolve a system in which the mandate of the people goes where they want, and it is not what we've been seeing in different elections. The changing of the ballots and the Form 45. There's so many things which happen which can be avoided. These things happen because we have not contemplated on sitting together, and there is the problem of overseas Pakistanis. There are 10 million, and we need to empower them. We need to bring them into the voting arena as well. And for that, again, I think all the parties agree. I don't think there's any party that does not agree on this, because we have so many patriotic Pakistanis, and we bank on them for their remittances. But when it comes to their vote, we disenfranchise them. So we need to sit together on all these matters. And there's the matter of Nadra, of course. That's again a very valid reason. So there are zillion reasons for us to sit together, to cooperate, and I think the
your party is in power. What do you think why haven't we seen that kind of a relationship developing with the opposition earlier? Because, of course, as far as reform is concerned, the Prime Minister has also spoken about police reform. He's also spoken about, legal reform, judicial reform. So it's not only the election reform, electoral reform that we're now talking about, which is also very important, but there are all these other reforms which are still pending, and the Prime Minister has been committed to getting there also. And for all of that, like you are saying, and where all the people in this program are saying, everybody needs to be taken on board. The stakeholders need to be taken on board, and the Parliament as a whole, whether it's the opposition or the government, needs to be taken on board for any kind of constitutional amendment. We saw what happened post-Daska election. We saw what happened between the government and the Election Commission also. So all of that behind us, can we move forward now?
Mahrukh, of course, why not? If we want Pakistan to progress, if we want strong institutions, if we want to evolve systems that work and systems that give all the fundamental rights to the citizens of Pakistan, then the people who got the mandate, and this mandate is given to different parties. There is not just PTI. There are other parties. They are sitting in the Parliament also because the people.
But of course, you are the government, and that's great that the Prime Minister has made this overture. He's taken the first step. Of course, now we'll have to see how the other political parties respond.
Unfortunately, Prime Minister speaks and speaks and speaks, makes announcements, and then he doesn't implement. His announcements are not followed with actions.
How is he going to implement this? You should take him on when he says that he wants to input.
And the important thing you refer to is working relationship.
Right.
So do you think PTI is sincere in establishing working relationship with opposition, combined opposition? No.
Why? Why do you say that they're not serious? They're not sincere? How do you know they're not sincere? Take them up on this. Why doesn't the PMLN take them up on this?
Take on the issue of COVID-19.
Right.
When all opposition supported government and a meeting was held, Prime Minister addressed that meeting and left. He didn't listen to leader of the opposition and other parliamentary leaders.
But he's listening now.
He is listening after 3 years. So let us see if he is listening to our proposals. Then let him convene a meeting of all stakeholders and evolve a consensus.
Right. Maybe he will. Maybe that's the next step. Let's hope that he'll do that. Ji, Minhas.
Yeah,
Minister, what about the issue of overseas Pakistanis? Because we were earlier also talking about it.
very important.
And the roadmap, do you think that the roadmap is clear on that issue?
That is the confusion. And the confusion is that we don't know what the Prime Minister's party wants actually. There is already an existing model of Azad Kashmir. They have an overseas Pakistanis electing system. They have 7 seats and you know that elections are coming also of KJK Assembly. So they will elect the members from Lahore, Rawalpindi, even Karachi and all across the country. That is one model.
Muhajirin,
Refugees. Yes, refugees. And then we don't know what Prime Minister's party wants. How they are going to elect them, because the question is that if you are going to ask them to contest elections, you have kicked out a number of parliamentarians based on the dual nationalities.
Right.
Will they be reinstated? Will they be asked to come back and contest the elections? And that means that was a big major blow we did to those people who were holding dual nationalities. Then there is already a spanner thrown by Mia Shahbaz Sharif Sahib into the
But the law will not,
work.
I mean, the law will start from, it will have prospective effect. It will not have, it will not go.
Yeah, but certainly that will create a big issue.
Right.
Remember, we have thrown a big number of people, senior politicians, out of the equation. And now the other thing which will come into play is that if they use the right to vote from their own countries where they're living now, or whether they will be asked to come into Pakistan and give their vote, cast their vote here. Because that's what Mia Shahbaz Sharif Sahib has said, that we have no issues for giving overseas Pakistanis voting rights, but they should come here and cast their vote.
Sorry, another representation. They should be given special seats, like lady seats, like technocrats, like minorities.
That's
and
one.
They should elect their own representatives.
That's
the
one
main
proposal.
question is, yes, the main issue is their representation in the parliament. And that representation should be given properly. So that is, there is one suggestion that can be discussed.
But he's, right, but he's
the formula
saying
is not there.
Yes.
Because we don't know that which countries, let's say, we can see that offhand off the cuff is England, America, Canada, whatever, Germany, maybe 3-4 other countries, Europeans.
Do you think the government is clear on what formula they want to?
No.
There is no clarity, and that's why the confusion is. That's why it was rejected by the Election Commission of Pakistan, because the Constitution of Pakistan does not allow this kind of thing, that overseas Pakistani can do that. And Supreme Court has already thrown out all the dual nationals.
Do you think it's a possibility, the formula, the special seats formula that Shahbaz Sharif Sahib is talking about?
I mean, the one thing is clear, as Uzma is also saying, Sadiq Sahib is also saying, Shahbaz Sahib has also mentioned very clearly these 2-3 points which Sadiq Sahib also mentioned, that he has agreed to giving them the vote to right, and also vote of representation in the National Assembly and the Senate also. So this is a good thing that Mia
So
Sahib
the good thing is that there in essence there is agreement, but the fine working of it or the procedure of it needs to be worked on.
True.
So I think, isn't it good that there is that one step has been taken, whereas the PMLN...
There is intention, only a method has to be evolved.
Right.
Yes.
The procedure has to be evolved, and that procedure can be evolved provided there is consultation between all the stakeholders, which is what everybody seems to agree on.
Let us see.
Let's see, because it still has to be worked out, because government again has to take the initiative of bringing all the stakeholders on the table.
Right. Uzma, do you think that there is, Sadiqul Farooq Sahib started off by saying that if there is a formal invitation from the Prime Minister, if that is what it comes down to, do you think that the Prime Minister will extend that kind of formal invitation? Why not?
Mahrukh, first of all, I would like to say that if we can build consensus in your program, and if our worthy friends are, putting forth so many different suggestions for electoral reforms, why is it that they can't trust the Prime Minister and sit together in the Parliament and do this? This is exactly what the Prime Minister is inviting them for. I think now the overseas Pakistanis, we all agree that they need to be given voting rights. There is the postal ballot all over the world. Especially in the forces, postal ballot is is the done thing, and it's accepted also. So